take that's been going around gaming and geek space lately, and especially on some of the bigger YouTube channels, that I wanted to talk about tonight. And the take is this: Magic the Gathering is turning into Fortnite. And the argument goes like this: Wizards of the Coast keeps cramming outside IP into Magic the Gathering Universe Beyond product line. Spider-Man, Walking Dead, Fortnite, TMNT, Marvel, Star Trek, The Hobbit. And this year alone, there are 7 standard sets releasing, the most ever, with 4 of them being Universes Beyond. Which means that more than half of the Magic releases this year will feature characters and worlds that have nothing to do with Magic. So the argument is that Magic has become what Fortnite became, a game that abandoned its own identity to chase every IP on the market and turned itself into a glorified licensing vehicle. This take is absolutely wrong. Okay? Here's the fundamental problem with comparing Magic to Fortnite. Fortnite throws IP at the wall with zero regard for fit, coherence, craft. Master Chief standing next to Naruto, standing next to The Rock, standing next to a banana. There's no editorial vision. There's no attempt to make the crossover feel like it belongs. It's a licensing deal dressed up as a game update, and everybody knows it. Magic's crossovers don't really work that way, and the evidence is in the products they're releasing. The Lord of the Rings set, one of the first majors, was extraordinary. Tolkien's world and Magic's world share a lot of the same DNA, right? Multiverse structure, planes, legendary creatures, artifacts of immense power that made them feel not just natural, but almost inevitable for Magic. The cards were mechanically creative. The One Ring as a unique card was a genuine design achievement. The set brought in new players and satisfied longtime fans simultaneously. That's not what Fortnite does. The Final Fantasy set last year was another genuine success. Final Fantasy and Magic have been parallel obsessions for the same audience for 30 years. The mechanical translation of Final Fantasy's jobs, summons, and materia system into Magic card design, especially the summons in my opinion, showed real craft and real love for both properties. The Final Fantasy VI Commander deck was widely praised as one of the best pre-constructed decks ever released. This is not slapping a skin on an existing card. This is thoughtful, creative work. Here's the data point that matters most. Magic's own designers have noted that fan skepticism about Universes Beyond has been shrinking over time. Not because players give up complaining, but because the products keep being good enough to win people over. When the execution is there, the community will work with it. The Fortnite comparison assumes all crossovers are equal. They are not. There's also a more fundamental point here. Magic the Gathering is 30 years old, has its own multiverse, planes, its own characters and lore. The foundation is not going anywhere. The core Magic sets, Ravnica, Innistrad, Bloomburrow, and the one that's releasing next week that everybody's super hyped about, Strixhaven, they're still releasing. They're still the backbone of the game. Universes Beyond exists alongside the core game, not instead of it. When you sit down to play Magic, you are still playing Magic. The rules haven't changed. The gameplay hasn't changed. A Spider-Man card is still a creature with a mana cost and a power and a toughness and an ability. It plays like Magic because it is Magic. Fortnite didn't add Halo to a pre-existing game with 30 years of identity and say, here's an optional crossover you can engage with or not. Fortnite is the crossover. There's a meaningful difference between a game that does crossovers and a game that is nothing but crossovers. Magic is still the former, not the latter. Now, I said mostly, and I want to be honest about where the Fortnite comparison does start to have some merit. Marvel and TMNT crossovers are a bit weird. I'll say it. Spider-Man last year was one of the most controversial UB sets so far, and I think the criticism of the set was fair. Okay? It just didn't quite work. Okay? It didn't quite fit, and the mechanics of it just weren't great. Part of this is the style. The comic book stuff doesn't really jive as well. Right? The other part is Marvel characters carry so much cultural weight from films and comics that seeing them recontextualized into Magic cards feels more jarring because it's such a big IP. And this year, there's the full Marvel superhero set dropping in June. Avengers, Fantastic Four, X-Men, the whole roster. And it's positioned as Magic's summer blockbuster, this year's version of Final Fantasy. And I don't know how it's going to land. The scale, it feels more like a licensing deal than creative collaboration. It feels closer to what people are actually criticizing. So I'll make that concession. Marvel stuff, maybe some of the TMT stuff, is where the Fortnite comparison has its best argument. Not because the cards are bad, They might be great, but because the fit isn't as clean. Okay? One awkward crossover, though, does not make Magic into Fortnite. Okay? Mallow, you obviously and I play a lot of Magic. You've watched this UB thing. You've got a whole channel about Magic stuff.
I do.
Right?
Where I talk a lot about this exact thing.
Right. Which is why I wanted to throw this in there. Okay? Where do you land on the overall topic? First off, is the Fortnite comparison fair, or is it just lazy fucking criticism from people who just don't like change? And is Marvel / TMT kind of the line for you, or are you fine with all of it?
I set out to make all of my commanders this year be some type of crazy secret layer or universes beyond of my 32.
Okay.
Just because, and you know the folks that we have as well too, because the purists will sit there and get pissed about it, and I love that, and I want to troll them at the table. It is a 30-year-old card game. There are only so many times we can go back to the well of some of these planes in the universe and things like that, and there's only so many times we can do new things. The fact that they're still creating ways to do stuff in this game, to me, is impressive.
They're the dominant TCG on the planet.
Still.
By far.
I mean, Pokemon has got its, scalpers, and that's about it.
It's big.
It's big, but it's mostly there for YouTube videos of them opening cards and then getting them graded and selling them at flea markets. Yep. That's about it. Really, when it kind of comes down to it, I actually am a big Marvel fan. I'm a big TMNT fan. In fact, I actually picked up the other day, there was a hardcover of the last Ronin Omnibus at my local bookstore. And I went and immediately picked it up because I didn't have it.
That's right there.
Yep. Yeah. It was on sale too, which makes it even better. And I happen to have the card with the last Ronin cover in Magic the Gathering sitting right over there at the Magic Station. I don't think it's too much of a step too far. You can play without them. That's the thing. I have said that in numerous videos and on numerous podcasts. You don't have to engage.
I'm going to go the other way. With some of the power creep, especially some of the previews we've gotten for this full Marvel set, there are people who would argue that to maintain any level of competitiveness, you have to engage with UB. What do you say to that?
Those people are not playing well enough and aren't building good enough decks and aren't playing them very well. I can still beat you with a Goblin deck without touching Marvel. You might not like that it's Krinko. Tough shit. I can still whoop your ass with it. Just because you have a deck that is Kefka, you call it, because it's the Final Fantasy one, it's really Pulveros, and you can whoop ass with, and that's a basic card from the original set, and you can do those kinds of things with it.
Reskin, yep.
It's a reskin, which I absolutely think is fantastic because it's great. Bring new art to it. Mechanically, it's not different. There are so many, the problem with, and we're talking mostly about Commander. I'm not a standard player anymore. I do not want to keep up with the meta of standard anymore. I don't want to be sweating at the table like I used to when I was doing the tour and things like that. I've been playing Magic for almost as long as it's been around. Like that, we even started way the fuck back there. And so I've seen the game evolve to really just to speed up. And the thing about playing specifically Commander, which is the dominant format in all of Magic the Gathering right now, I'll use a land ramp deck, which several of us play. There are no less than 7 cards out there from different sets that do the same thing as Crucible of Worlds, which, if you don't know, is a card that lets you play lands from your graveyard. The whole point is you do a cycle of lands and things like that. It triggers stuff and it makes big creatures or gives you life or whatever kind of thing, right? There are 7 cards that all do the same thing and maybe have one tweak. to add on to it or something like that. And those are 7 cards, by the way, that are not from Universes Beyond. Those are printed in normal, in what they consider in-universe sets.
Yeah.
And mind you, in-universe includes going to space now.
Because they
and
put
things that.
Edge of Eternities. I mean, Neon Dynasty Kamigawa was the Cyberpunk. They've done Streets of New Capenna, which was in the universe. Yep. They've expanded out, which again I think they had to do. And I think that's actually a good point to spin on right there. Starting with Neon Dynasty Kamigawa, with Streets of New Capenna, right, where they went kind of 1940s gangster with it, right, which I thought was a fun thing.
It's not in 1920s in Art Deco style. That's the thing.
Yeah. Outlaws of Thunder Junction, which was again, that's a Universes Within set, but it's a Western, right? You know,
they do a lot of great themes.
Yeah, they really do. And so I think that does help with the universe. I think that helps with the Universes Beyond stuff, because within the Universes Within, they're like, we've gone futuristic. We did Edge of Eternities. We went to space. We did a Western, right?
Yeah.
We did a gangster movie. We did all of this within Universes Within. The other argument that I've seen a lot, and I would be curious about your thoughts on it, is this. When Universes Beyond started, and for the first bit of it, right? So Lord of the Rings, Warhammer 40K, Assassin's Creed, etc. UB sets were commander only, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Which kind of kept the standard players there, but there was a lot of kind of a little bit of yiping from the standard players about, hey, they're getting rid of some power cards that we could use in standard, but we can't use them. Final Fantasy was the first set that they went, look, you be a standard legal from here on out, right? Not commander only, which was a change they made last year. Do you agree with the decision to make you be standard legal as opposed to leaving it as a commander only, which, while it's the dominant, is also the casual format for Magic the Gathering, not the Pro Tour?
Yeah.
Right?
Casual in quotes only, because there's so many commander tournaments now that are out there, even at the places like MagicCon and ECCC and things like that. So it is very much a, like, you know, I don't have a problem with UB formats becoming standard, because that means they are not going and doing some of the things that are just completely out there. For instance, the Doctor Who set. That is a completely out there fucking thing that never made it to standard, thankfully, because that would have taken... Standard games take about 5 minutes these days because of how fast you can go through a game. That would have taken, 25 minutes per round with Doctor Who, with as slow as those decks can go and stuff like that. The problem that I have with it is that you have signed all these licensing deals. There are 7 sets coming out this year. And even for a content creator like myself, to try to keep up with the hype train that is Magic the Gathering right now, it is insane. I couldn't put out, you can't put out deck builds fast enough than some of these people who are basically on like super Adderall. They like drop a card on Scryfall, and now the next day there's a deck build about it, and oh my god, it's amazing and everything like that. And that's just the bedroom guys. And that's not even like Leonard Williams and those guys that are like super Magic players and things like that. Which shout out to Big Cat for just having having their baby and all like that recently too. But like, the problem that I have is the quick release cycle of all these things. It would be fine if we had 4 sets a year, 1 per quarter, to be able to keep up. And then if you had one of them that was X-Men, okay, there's a significant enough build to X-Men and things like that you can get excited for it. As it sits right now, I bought very little of TMNT, even though I like TMNT. I bought the singles that I needed directly, and I bought a bundle here because I thought it was cool and kitschy.
Let's.
And that's it.
You know what? I may break this into 2 segments.
Okay.
So I think my stick on the UB for just a second, right? Because somebody also in chat is bringing up like pull rates and stuff like that. That's why I might break this into another segment, right? My only gripe about UB this year is that UB is outnumbering in universe, right?
Yep.
I'm with you on the 1.25 is probably about right, but I also understand from a business perspective why they're like cycling as fast as they are, right? My bigger thing is you want to stop the griping about UB. And again, to reiterate from the beginning of the fucking video, if you're watching this on YouTube later, I don't think it's become Fortnite because, again, for the most part, they've done a really good job of integrating it into the greater Magic ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
My issue is you want to stop them griping. Having more UB than in-universe sets in a given year is a bad plan. It's a bad plan. Okay? You can't outnumber your in-universe stuff with universes beyond. Okay? So that's number one. There was, God dang, we could go on this for a while.
How much time you got? It's only 9:15 here.
We can go on this one for a while. So I think that's one of the big gripes about UB this year, right? And I will agree with that criticism.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody in the chat is also bringing up that Spider-Man was kind of half-baked. And again, I agree.
Yeah.
Not just from a design standpoint, but just the set was kind of half-baked.
Well, and that's my only issue with some of the UB stuff, and that's the release rate that we're putting some of these out in is to do one Spider-Man release was half-baked. But I judge most of these releases by their mechanics, not by the art on the card. I love the art on the card. I spend a lot of time talking with Magic the Gathering artists. Without naming names, some of them are now my clients and things like that, right? Like, those are things I am engrossed in that world kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I love the art on the cards. I love the alternate arts, things like that. Whether I'm going to actually buy the card or not does it help me in my game? Period. And that squarely fits on Gavin and team to make good cards. And Spider-Man just wasn't. Web slinging was not a great alternative to free running. It was okay, but it wasn't great. Now, there were some standout cards like Cosmic Spider-Man and stuff like that you brought up earlier. That's actually a decent card. Spider-Punk, there's a few in there.
Yeah.
There's a few hits in every set.
Yeah.
But
Spider-Man just didn't feel good.
It didn't feel good. And then you get Avatar that actually came up with a really good mechanic in firebending, waterbending, earthbending, all that kind of stuff. And you're like, well, shit, now I didn't want to buy into this set, but now I'm kind of feeling the set because it feels new. It feels good. That's where the Fortnite comparison to me goes the hell out the back, because in every one of these releases, they're putting new mechanics in, which as a Magic content creator is also kind of tiring because you have to learn a new, you have to learn a new concept every time one of these things are coming out. But it feels new. It keeps some life into the game. Now, firebending and all that kind of stuff is going to be around for a while, especially in spell slinging decks and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That made that one feel good. We'll see TMNT actually used a lot of the sneak mechanics and things like that.
Very similar to the old stuff. All right.
Which to me was okay.
Yeah.
By the way.
TMNT to me right now feels about 3/4 baked. Now, there's a reason for that I'm going to get into in the next segment. But what do you folks think? Leave some stuff in the comments down below. Did I convince you that Magic is not turning into Fortnite, I promise? Or do you still think it's just becoming Fortnite on a trading card game? Let us know.